we've also gotten the responses a lot where people will come up to us and say how crazy it is that there was so much shame and ignorance about women's bodies in period way back then. And we've had to break it to them that we've based a lot of the ignorance and jokes on like tweets from like 2019, 2022. Like so that's been a surprising thing how much ignorance there is about the ignorance that still exists.
So, welcome to Director's Notes.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
This is sort of a great coming together because Marbell, so editor-in-chief, programmed you guys for Aesthetica. So I saw this film quite a while ago and now seeing it again, which is amazing.
Did you see it in Aesthetica or did you see it in the programming process?
I saw it in the programming process.
Okay, okay. I was going to say because I went to Aesthetica. I was in
Yeah,
New York. It was so amazing.
yeah.
Um, and the screening room for this was like in an old church. Like, I mean, it was like we were in a building that must have been built in the 1100s or something. It was incredible.
I forget how into old things you guys are.
We
Yeah,
don't have
yeah,
them over
yeah,
here.
yeah. They don't, right?
And we're like, oh my God, it's another old drafty church. And you guys are like, oh my God, look at this building.
Yeah,
How could anything be this old?
yeah.
Honestly, every time I'm like, oh yeah. Um, I mean, now we've dug in, but guys, please introduce yourselves and maybe give us a little bit of a titillating introduction to the film.
I'm Julia Aks,
And I'm Steve Pinder.
and we are the co-writer, co-directors of Jane Austen's period drama, which is a Pride and Prejudice parody about menstruation.
Nice. That's not the first time you've said that, is it?
No, I tried to change it up a little bit, and then I was like, no, I'm just going to stick with what it
No, but
is.
that's a good alliteration there. A Pride and Prejudice parody. Nice.
Yeah,
About period. I could
About
just say
period.
period.
Yes.
there you go.
Okay, next time.
Nah,
Thank you.
yeah, I know. That's what you remember. I mean, I have spent years reading, watching, enjoying. Jane Austen is a legend. Pride and Prejudice, I've seen it done good, well, badly. I personally cannot wait for Wuthering Heights. But this, guys, this brings together also one of my favorite things. I'm a woman who likes to talk about periods and thinks we need to talk about periods more. So, first of all, thank you for
Our
bringing
pleasure.
together all of this joy. But yeah, how did you guys come to be taking on a very British adaptation with a very bloody side?
That's a really good question. I don't know why I myself am attracted to, I mean, I grew up watching Monty Python and Faulty Towers, and so I think British humor was always a presence in my life in those ways. And then the first project that Steve and I actually worked on together was a project where he needed somebody who could do a Julie Andrews impersonation, who could also sing, and I'm a classical singer. So anyway, that was the first project um, where I learned that I could kind of sound like Julie Andrews, and then that kind of snowballed into other sketches and projects that Steve and I collaborated on. So the Britishness of it all has always been there for
Yeah.
some reason.
Well, my mom is British. So I think I don't know, my mom grew up on Sound of Music. She was born in 1954. So Sound of Music came out in 65, I think. And so when she was growing up, it was sort of all the rage with her, her and her sisters and her friends. And so I grew up on Sound of Music, because of her. And there's always been something, I don't know, for me about I have this like American juvenile humor side from like Mel Brooks and I don't know, just my family. Um, and then so there's been always in my life sort of this mashup between those two things.
So, I mean, when you guys, I really wanted to sort of imagine myself in your writing room because every single like line, every word like hits. And I swear I could watch the film on like, once like really slow and just analyze it all down. But how was that room? What was the writing process like, knowing that every word needed to be good?
Very full of joy. I think Steve and I, one of the many wonderful things about working together and us having found each other is that we both share this a love of base humor, but also wordplay and
Yeah.
also the puzzle of jokes and comedy, and also caring about the world and caring what we have to say with the types of films that we want to make. And so it really ran the gamut. I'm trying to think of anything specific, Steve, but it was a lot of stupid jokes and it was a lot of wordplay and it was a lot of joy. I do remember that.
And a lot of like, acting things out and just getting like on our feet, just playing around and sort of figuring out what the characters are doing and yeah, I don't know. It's like when one of us has a funny idea that makes the other one laugh, it's like, okay, well that goes in there, you know.
And were you writing things in like modern English per se, and then translating them to some kind of period voice?
It was a little bit of both. There sometimes if we were stuck on a part, we would just kind of vomit it out in modern speak and then we go back and make it more poetic. Steve is really, really good at that. And we had also had versions of it where there were more anachronisms throughout the script. And we had kind of asked for some feedback from people early on, and pretty unanimously, people were like, "No, we like keeping it in Jane Austen speak, as it were," and hearing these characters really try to put words of that era to some of these things and feelings and biological functions. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit of both.
I definitely felt like sort of one of those stumbles, but that went well is when she's talking about her cervix and he's like, Vix, Vix. And then he goes off and he's like, oh, I'm going to go, slay him or whatever. I loved that bit.
Thank you.
Because, yeah, how do you translate cervix to period English?
Well, that this was our best attempt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're in the writer's room, you're being hilarious, you're laughing all over. How did you know sort of where to draw the line, as it were? Because
Mm.
it's very easily it could have fallen into pastiche or just ridiculousness that then an audience would know. So how do you know where that line is?
It's a good
Oh,
question.
that is a good question. I think it's a lot of back and forth between the two of us. I think Julia is very good at that line to begin with. Um, but I think when either of us sort of crosses over it, it's almost like when things are funny, there's a truth to them. And so when things cross over that line, they get unfunny again. And so I feel like we really do just sort of we follow two things. We follow the genuine laughs, what genuinely we find funny, and what other people seem to genuinely find funny. And we follow the things that really feel that give us deep sort of heart feelings. Um, and I feel like those are the two chords that we're trying to balance between and strike. And when things cross over into something too pastiche, like you're saying, it just, in the room, it's like one of us will be like, ha, ha, ha,
Yeah.
and then that's not gonna play.
Yeah.
But I also think we both have a background in theater, and at least for me, doing so much theater, it's it's the best laboratory because you get direct feedback from the audience. Either they laugh or they don't. And if you cross the line, and I have definitely crossed the line before, you feel it, you know? So I I think we both brought our live theater experience to the writing process and also to the editing process, which relies so heavily on timing. And that all comes, at least for me, from, you know, years and years and years and years and years of trying, failing, trying, succeeding, bombing, succeeding in front of live audiences.
Yeah. And were there lines, because obviously, Julia, for you performing as well, were there lines that written, you were like, they're golden, but then when it came to actually performing them, they just didn't work?
Yes, is the short answer. Yeah, there were a couple things where I was like, this is gonna really slay. And then it's so interesting going from even a table read
Mm,
to through the full filmmaking process, because you really don't know in film until you see it in the edit room. Things that worked live on set even like end up not working in the edit. And that's why people do reshoots. That's why you do a lot of re-edits a lot of the time. But the most pronounced one that I can think of was when Essie is describing that period blood doesn't exactly gush. It And I had written this sound that I thought was going to be really, really funny in my head, and it had been there since the first draft. And as soon as we got on set and we were shooting that scene and I did it, Steve just gave me one of the most annoying and brilliant jokes, which was try something else, Julia. And and it had been in my head for so long during the writing process that, usually I'm pretty malleable on set. But for some reason that in that moment I had been so stuck in that thing in my head that I panicked and I think I blacked out, and I definitely don't remember performing what ended up being in the film. And what is in the film is the next take that I did. And that was, we only had time for 2 or 3 takes at the time. So that was one of the, I love acting for Steve, because he is so good at kind of um, making just like singular suggestions here and there that open up a whole world and kind of expand my mind as an actor.
yeah. But Steve, for you, like in that moment, knowing that she'd had this line for ages, and you were like, no, 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 that's got to be tricky, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't like, no, no, no. I just sensed that there was something more surprising, or something that could even surprise her in the moment. Again, when you're acting and especially if you've written the material, you're so familiar with it that it's hard. It becomes harder to surprise yourself,
Yeah.
and I think for as an audience, like those moments when an actor surprises themselves, that's electric. Like that's what we're waiting for. That's what makes a movie feel alive. Um, and so I don't know, on set, I just saw an opportunity for that. And what came out is like just one of the best moments of the whole thing. Um, and it does. It's like it catches her off guard. It's delightful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the sort of, it's the electricity of it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, so obviously it's a comedy. I mean, it's a brilliant, funny comedy. But sort of doing research and looking into your actors, a lot of them have got backgrounds sort of more in drama, um, and are not what, I don't know, you'd be labeled as a comedic actor. Was that, did you want that? Was that a decision, or were these just these wonderful actors and this is who you wanted?
No, we definitely knew from the get-go that we like to craft the jokes. And there's
Mm,
always room for improv and flexibility there when you're on set. But I don't know, I think we both enjoy that process. And so to get actors who can really execute what's on the page and infuse it with so much more life, those tended to be, funnily enough, more dramatic actors as opposed to people from the improv schools or from stand-up comedy or from quote unquote comedic
yeah.
world. We found, I had a short list of actors that I had either worked with or that I knew I wanted to work with, and all of them were primarily dramatic actors, especially Samantha Smart, who plays my sister Lavinia in it. I've known her for a long time, and she does a lot of drama, and she is brilliant, brilliant dramatic actress. But getting to know her personally, I was like, there's something kind of weird about you, and I kind of want to put it in a comedy. And so when we had her audition tape, I was like, that's exactly what I was hoping would happen if we kind of gave her some livelier material. And she was great. She was perfect.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go, go, go. You go.
I don't have anything important to add to that. Yeah, it's all same. It's like I was trained in the Meisner technique as an actor, and it's all about living truthfully under the imaginary circumstances. And so that's what I like when I watch acting, and so even in a comedy, that's what I want to see. And so we wanted actors who would play the circumstances for real, play the stakes for real, commit to the situation at hand.
Yeah.
These women at this time, again, it's a comedy, so it's a little heightened, but this is life and death. You know, Lavinia really believes that if Dickley finds out about this period, that their security as women is going to be gone, right? They are not going to have literal financial security. And so that's what we wanted people to play, is the reality of that. And then the jokes just, you know, it makes the jokes so much better because they stand in relief from the drama.
Yeah. And what about there's physical comedy in it, and like when I was researching this, I was like comedy and corsets. So there's got to be sort of there's a comedy that also you're restrained, those costumes. So did you find stuff coming out of that as well? You can steal comedy and corsets, by the way.
Logging that away. Um, I mean, I think part of the part of the fun of comedy and corsets is you have something so clear to play against. So, for example, if we establish that we're living in a very buttoned up world that is very upright, that is very proper, and then one of my favorite things in rehearsal, we had one day of rehearsal, was with the sisters, with Nicole and Samantha, when we were figuring out the when there's the chicken and she's holding her down and there's this tussle on the settee. It was figuring out the blocking for that because it's a moment where all of that goes out the window, and as it should, and it is so fun to go from the propriety, fun as a performer and as a viewer, to watch it go from that to just crumble into these like hunched over, you know, not grotesque, but sort of definitely not grotesque, but angular, just sort of rough and tumble postures. So even physically and visually, it's telling the story that we want to be telling. And it was really fun.
Yeah.
And Julia had a really fun idea with that in term directorially too, which a subtle thing, but we change how the camera is working at the same time. So the camera goes from these really still, static shots to handheld, and so there's suddenly this motion. And then when Dickley shows up and they pop back into their propriety, the camera does the same thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a long talk about what line should we transition from sticks to handheld. We had a long talk with our cinematographer Luca, and I think I'm very happy with the decision we made because I think it's almost imperceptible unless you're really,
I
really
can't
looking for it.
I can't think now sort of where the exact moment is.
Great. I think it's just a feeling, and Luca did
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I mean, just incredible handheld work in that sequence.
Mm. And yeah, and it's just it's that sort of juxtaposition, isn't it, of wearing those very formal dresses and presenting yourself to the world like that, and then it's sort of like you said, it all going a bit mad and everyone just descending into chaos. What about, I'd love to know sort of, because this was shot in two very different locations, wasn't it?
It
Um,
was.
but you wouldn't have known, like, there's a great continuity. So how was that worked on? Was that a worry? Was there sort of, tell me all about that side.
Well, we went back and
We
forth for a while. No, go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, we really, I mean, I really wanted to shoot this in the UK. I really did. I know that like we were talking about before we got on here. I mean, it's like you throw a stone and you hit an old building.
Yeah.
Um, and so like it's so much easier in a way to shoot a movie like this over there because you have authentic stuff. You have the authentic locations. Um, but we had so many sort of community resources in Los Angeles where we live. Our costumers live here. Julia's done a lot of theater in LA, so we had access to some costuming resources that we wouldn't have had in the UK. Um, and just all of our community is here. So we sort of decided, okay, we got to figure out how to do it here and how to make it feel real. Because it
Yeah.
was also very important to us that people Unlike a sketch or like unlike something you might see on SNL, where that it's a sketch and so you forgive the sort of production design and you're just there for the comedy. We really wanted people to be there for the story. The comedy is a vehicle for the story and for the message,
Yeah.
not just for the comedy on its own. And so we felt it was really important that we transport people into this world, and that created the problem. Like, okay, how do we really do Regency England in Los Angeles? Um, so
We drove
we
to like,
found,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Do you
Well, we
go?
drove to, I think Steve more than I did because I forget what I was doing, but Steve drove to every corner of Southern California looking for a home that could potentially even uh, be as transportive as we want it to be. And there's a lot of like Hollywood set versions of like Regency
Oh, yeah.
homes that are kind of kitschy. And we were like, should we do a kitschy version if that's all we can get? And the answer was a resounding no if we thought about it for 2 seconds.
And also there may be something here that we don't know about that would work well, but like with the budget constraints that we had, we were just very limited on what we could actually afford and access for 3 days or 2.5 days,
But we ended
largely.
up, no, no, no. So we ended up finding this house that was sort of this Tudor-ish style architecture, which is um if any historian wants to come after us, we have a whole backstory about how the house has been in the family for generations and like
You're
um
ready.
yeah, we're ready. Mildly. But the real once we found the interiors, we breathed a sigh of relief because it was a really wonderful place that had a lot of production design that came with it. So our production designer Dong Lei didn't have as much heavy lifting as he might have had to do if it was just a blank house. But then came the challenge of the exteriors, the opening shots of our film, which are outside in supposedly the rolling green hills of England. And we learned, we really drove around a lot of California, to be honest, looking for rolling green hills in August, which don't exist.
With no palm trees.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, exactly.
we have a lot of tests where we tried to frame out palm trees. We did some tests at cemeteries because they water their lawns. And our producer Ellie was like, please don't do that. We shouldn't do that. So we did end up going to upstate New York to New England, where it is very lush and green. And we ended up finding this location really last second that had this beautiful landscape, and we just had to VFX out a couple telephone poles, but it really wasn't much. And so we scrambled together what budget we had left and flew a very, very small skeleton crew out there for the opening scene of the film.
Yeah. But you really nailed it because the house as well, and sort of with the story, that story, they're going to fall into poverty. A lot of those houses, they're old and they will have been really like crappy. They wouldn't have been
Yeah.
brand new and polished. Like these guys don't have a lot of money. They need to get married to get money. Like these often, in these big stately homes, people only live in one or two rooms. The rest of it is, just rat ridden. And I definitely got that, from the feel. It didn't feel like it was a set that looked all shiny. So I
We were
appreciate
really
it.
going for rat ridden, so I'm really
Yeah,
glad.
rat ridden.
Rat ridden. It's because you started off with, a period drama. So it's got us all
Yeah.
going.
Comedy and corsets. Wow, we just got a lot. We got a
Party, of
lot.
course, that's and sort of the look of it. It's it's comedy, it's bright, there's costumes, but there's a real I don't know how to describe it. Sort of there's a vintage look to what you're putting across as well, which I enjoyed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
really mindful of that. I mean, we're our two main inspirations were Sense and Sensibility from 1995 with Emma Thompson
Classic.
and yeah, and Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 version, which I know is controversial to some, but in terms of the look, we really wanted this creamy filmic look that felt like it could have been a Jane Austen film from the 90s or the early aughts. And so we didn't want a kind of squeaky clean and digital feeling. And And I remember actually, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Steve. When we were talking with Luca, our cinematographer, one of the things that we communicated to him is that we wanted it to be a comedy that wasn't afraid of shadows. So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
painted the light to have actually quite a bit more depth than you might expect from a comedy, but because the only light source was the sun outside the window, and he shaped it beautifully within the space. But we wanted it to feel like cinema, and we wanted it to feel like a Jane Austen film, not a sketch, not a short film, but cinema.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we wanted it to feel real. I think we've lost something with digital cinema. Like, I feel like movies shot on film, they really do feel more real. There's something about the way film works that, we didn't get to shoot this on film, but we wanted it to feel as close to that as it possibly could.
Mm. Yeah, no, and I think that's what, the audience, that's how they get brought into the world as well, and watching it and being able to associate it with films that they'll know really well. Yeah, maybe not the 95 one, that's not my favorite. That,
Woo! What is your favorite, Sarah?
oh gosh, now I'm going to expose myself. Pride and Prejudice is not my favorite.
Okay.
I find the women a bit too whiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
I mean, as I said at the beginning, Wuthering Heights, give me a bit of Heathcliff and Kathy on, a moor. Anyway, I don't know if you could recreate a moor in the US. That might be a bit harder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we might have to come to you for that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'd love to know sort of about reception, and this must be such a fun one, playing at festivals and to crowds, and also, to American filmmakers. Because I'm not going to lie, when I saw this, I expected it to be British. And I don't know why. I guess that's just what people assume.
That
So
might be
yeah,
the greatest compliment we can receive.
well, there you
We
go.
really, that's, yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So how's it been? Does everyone laugh at the right time?
Yes, it's sort of interesting because we did pack the jokes in,
Yeah.
and there's this phenomenon that I noticed happen sometimes. There's like two tracks of laughter. There's always laughter, which is one of the best feelings in the world for us. Um, and also at the end, the other best feeling is, at the end when you don't know how Dickley is exactly going to respond, and then he responds quite well. You get a lot of audible "aw" in the audiences. So it that indicates to me that like we've really kind of taken them on the journey of the laughter through the heart, through the tension, through the climax. So it's not just the laughs, but they've really kind of gone on the emotional journey that we've tried to take them on. But sometimes in terms of the laughs, like depending on when an audience's first laugh happens, they'll be on one track of jokes and miss like every other joke. And there will be another audience who maybe misses the first joke but laughs at the second joke, and then they're on the other track and they'll laugh at every other joke there, which are and only it was only recently we had a screening. We had a really wonderful screening at CAA here in Los Angeles where the audience laughed at literally every joke. There were like little pockets who were all laughing at everything. So that's maybe like a comedy, nerdy, analytical way to think about it. But I found it a pretty interesting phenomenon throughout. But the reception has overall just been incredibly joyous and heartfelt. Again, like even beyond the laughs, like people, women and men have come up to us after screenings and shared stories about their periods or menopause or their wife's pregnancy or their experience in ignorance or shame. So
Yeah.
it's been really heartwarming in that way as well.
And
Yeah.
we've had so many people talk to us about rewatching it, which is just also the most flattering and amazing feeling that people who like it seem to like it so much that they want to watch it multiple times. And then they get all the other jokes. They got their track and then they get the other track. And lots of people tell us that, oh my God, I saw so much more the second time. And um people seem to want to share it with their families and their friends, and that's really meaningful to us.
Yeah. I think the first time that I watched it, I loved it, but I didn't pay any attention to their names. And then when I was rewatching it, and I was like, "Ha, their names are all brilliant." And then you lock into something different. Um, how many names did you have? There must have been so many.
We should
There's,
we should we should count. We should go through the list, Julia, at some point, so we can
it's a
answer
long
that
list.
question. Yes, we have a
It's a long
long list.
I'm just different. Yeah, there's a lot of sort of other characters that could come out the woodwork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fartleberry, Lord Fartleberry, I think maybe was one. But you know, it's like some of them skew like too silly, and so we tried to find that balance of, I mean, they're all very silly, but things that could kind of sound like
Yeah,
real names at the time. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, people are actually called Fanny. Well, and then we've got a different Fanny to your Fanny. It's just
Yeah.
all, it's mind blowing. And a lot of sort of these kind of, comedies, they've got a message. And I do love that that comes through. There is a real sincerity to the film, as much as we're like, ha ha, these names are great. And, I really applaud you for sort of bringing that through. That's important. And that's not always easy.
No, it's not. And we played for a long time with the script of how to balance like being informative and being entertaining and not making it feel preachy and but still making it mean something. Yeah, so we there were quite a few drafts where we really played with the balance of all of those things and tried to get it right. And um oh, I had a thought and there it went. Steve, you want to
I
take
mean,
it away?
sure. I was just gonna say that the message the originally the idea was just a pun and it was just a funny sketch, and the message for both of us has just deepened. It deepened before we made it, and then I feel like it continues to deepen the more we talk about it, and the more impact we see it have, the more we see people sort of light up at the end of a screening
Mm.
and feel the joy of like having this thing be expressed in such a public and joyful way. I think it's such a delight to see the impact of that, to see the impact of people feeling freer to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's truly been a delight, I think, for us to be part of this conversation around women's reproductive health
Hmm.
over the course of making the movie and now certainly in the screenings of it. It's been amazing.
I remember what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Great.
That was beautiful, Steve. Um, we've also gotten the responses a lot where people will come up to us and say how crazy it is that there was so much shame and ignorance about women's bodies and periods way back then. And we've had to break it to them that we've based a lot of the ignorance and jokes on like tweets from like 2019, 2022. Like so that's been a surprising thing how much ignorance there is about the ignorance that still exists. I mean,
Okay.
you, Sarah, love to talk about periods. I like to talk about periods, but there's so many people worldwide, but certainly in the States, even in my own personal circle of friends who still struggle with this stuff
Yeah.
and who I learned stuff about my body during this writing process that no one ever told me or taught me. So it does seem there seems to be a perception that we're already past this conversation, and quite the opposite.
No, I mean, yeah, no, I've got a friend who I used to live with, and she's my age, and way back then she never wanted to talk about her period. And now she's like, "I'm so sorry, I never spoke to you about your periods." I was like, "Yeah," this is when we were in our 20s. But I'm quite shocked that people believed that they would even talk about that word back then. Like that wouldn't even have been a word you could utter.
No,
So yeah, that blows my mind. Like, yeah, that people thought, oh, well done. Like, it's like, no, this is now. This is right now.
yeah,
You're just
yeah.
framing it, in a different way. Well, there we go. The conversation needs to continue. And yeah, I guess all the different angles that you can go at it. And everyone loves comedy. Everyone loves comedy. Right, guys.
Yeah.
Now, with your COVID brains, I'm going to put you to the test. No, it's really nice.
Oh, do it. Oh, well, this will be fun.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
it's
Okay.
no, lovely, lovely question. I'm asking everyone who I'm interviewing to tell me what their favorite short or shorts films are. To be fair, it doesn't have to be your favorite, just one that pings to your mind, one that's the most memorable, or one that sits with you. And yes, please. And whoever wants to go first can. I'm not picking.
Well, Julia, I have two that popped into my head
I
immediately.
also have two.
Oh my God, are they going to be the same? I bet one of them is the same.
I bet one of them is the same. Here, you go for it.
Okay. Well, so first I'll say we met this lovely filmmaking duo, British filmmaking duo in Aspen when we filmed there, and they screened this film called A Bear Remembers, and it's beautiful and haunting. It's about this little town in the UK somewhere, um, and there's this sound sort of echoing through the hills, and the town is trying to figure out what it is. And anyway, Zhang and Knight, they're just beautiful filmmakers. So that one popped into my head. The other one that popped into my head is this stop motion animation movie called Bug Diner,
Okay.
which we saw in Palm Springs, and it's like about these bugs who are like all horny. Basically, it's like horny bugs in a diner, and it is one of the wildest, funniest things I have ever seen.
I mean, I'm into that. I'm going to look that up.
I
I mean,
recommend
Yeah.
that to everyone.
yeah, A Bear Remembers is phenomenal, and you're not the only person to list that one. So far, the two most popular seem to be A Bear Remembers and Andrea Arnold, Wasp.
Uh,
Ah.
Mm.
Oh.
She's got a lot of votes.
Well, I have three then.
Go,
Mm,
more the merrier.
So Bug Diner, definitely. I love
yes, I knew it.
weird, wacky, dark, twisted stop motion animation seems to be emerging as like a thing I'm into.
Yeah.
Um, there's that. There was also a film early on in our festival run called Complications
Oh
that I
yeah.
just think is one of the most exquisitely made, just little nuggets of a story about a sex worker uh, a, who's over like on OnlyFans, and the guy that she is working with has a heart attack while she's on with him, and she sees it and she has to figure out what and how to call the people and figure out where he anyway it's I always think about that one. That was one of the first short films that really just, man, stays with me to this day in terms of content and craft and culture, and it just checks all the boxes for me on really great cinema. And then Lynn Ramsey had her early short films called Small Deaths are one of the earliest examples of like specifically feminine filmmaking. And they're quiet and subtle, and yet they like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just love them. Not comedy at all. And I'm a big fan of Lynn Ramsey's work in
Yeah.
general, but her early shorts called Small Deaths have just are a little thread in my heart that persists.
Okay. I mean, this is just lethal for me. I've got the longest list now. And I'm like trying to watch them, but in between sort of other things. And I just need a day where I'm like, no, I'm just watching shorts I want to. So you two, you've got a great collaboration. It's clearly a very successful. What can you tell us about what you're both doing next, what you're working on?
Well, a feature-length Jane Austen's period drama exists.
Obviously, we need it.
Thank you. We hope many other people feel the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
It it expands on the world. It there's more romance, there's more names, there's more sisterhood, and it's really more about Essie finding her voice and finding romance and sisterhood in a world that tells her she has to choose between the two, which is a struggle I myself and I think a lot of modern women can also relate to. And it's also a bonkers comedy. So there's that. And What else do we want to talk about, Steve? If
Oh,
anything.
we have a couple other things that we're spinning up in the pipeline that aren't quite ready to be super talked about, but one of them is a musical, and we're very excited about. We both have musical theater backgrounds, very excited about putting together a musical.
Okay. I'm always really hesitant with musicals because this gets me a lot of backlash, but I don't like musicals.
A lot
Yeah,
of people
no, I
don't.
know, I
A lot of
know,
people don't.
I know. But I've seen there's been quite a few short films recently, and it always comes up in the short films where there's like a musical sequence, and I'm so into it. I'm bought in. I absolutely love it. So I think, yeah, little musical sequences in short films are opening my eyes to the world.
You have a favorite musical if you had to pick one of, like, is there any musical that really works for you?
No.
Okay.
I've got to be honest. Like I don't understand La La Land. I don't get it. Why?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And that's the most like sort of accessible one, right? And we could go through the lists of all of them, and I'd just be like, no. I fall
Ha-
asleep, and I don't
Have
want
you
to.
Well,
seen have you ever seen Chicago?
Yes,
Not the stage show, the movie.
yes.
And that's
no.
also okay.
Don't like it.
Wow. All right. Then it's just not
Well,
maybe not for you.
you don't
That's
have to watch this other movie that we're making. You
yeah.
don't have
Yeah. Yeah.
I can still be fans of your work and not indulge in the musical.
of course. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're still cool if you don't like it.
Okay, good. No hard feelings.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for powering through your COVID.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
And yeah, comedy corsets is my gift to you.
Thank you.
Keep it forever.
Yeah. All right, guys, best of luck in the upcoming campaigns and everything you're doing. And I hope to see more work from you. And I can't wait for the feature.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
this was awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah.